Essentially what we're interested in here is going from standard form to vertex form. We're going to focus today on algebraically completing the square and taking an expression like this and making it look like this. Remember, with the vertex form, we can quickly identify what the vertex is. What the equation of the axis of symmetry is, and whether we have a max or a min. If A is positive, my parabola is opening up and I'm going to have a minimum. If A is negative, my parabola is opening down and I'm going to have a maximum. So the first example I'd like to focus on is y equals 4x squared minus 24x plus 31. So I'm trying to make that expression, which is in standard form, look more like vertex form. Here are the steps. First, look at your coefficient of the x squared. Factor it out. X squared negative 24 divided by 4. So what did I do? I focused on the two terms with x and I factored out the leading coefficient, 4. 4 times x squared, 4x squared. 4 times negative 6, negative 24. I left the 31 by itself, so it's right there outside. Now, what I want you to do is focus on what's inside the brackets. So I'm going to write down 4x squared minus 6x. Now, take that 6. So I'm going to do on the side 1 over 2 times 6, which is going to give us 3. I'm then going to take the 3 and square it. That's going to give me 9. Alright, this 9 I'm going to add over here. And at the same time, I'm going to subtract it. And I'm going to close my brackets. Plus 31. So what did I do? Nothing really. Look, 9 and minus 9. This is 0. So basically I've added 0 to my expression. Why did I pick 9? It's based on this number, 6. Once that coefficient inside the bracket is 1, take half of 6. Take that number and square it. That's what gets added and subtracted. Next step. 4 x squared minus 6x plus 9. Close brackets. And I need to take this negative 9 and multiply it by the 4. Negative 9 times 4 will give me negative 36. And I still have my 31. This you can recognize as our old friend. So we can factor that. 4x the middle sign, and that number. Minus 36 plus 31 . So my A is 4. My axis of symmetry is x equals 3. My vertex is 3 and negative 5. And because my parabola is opening up, my minimum value is minus 5. So let's look at that again. What does that give us? Well, that tells us that because 4 is positive, my parabola is opening up. The equation of my axis of symmetry is x equals 3. My vertex is 3, negative 5. And because I'm opening up, I have a minimum of negative 5. So what were the steps again? First, factor out the 4 from the x terms. So I've got 4, x squared, 4 times negative 6. That gives me negative 24. Leave the number on the side. Now focus just on these two terms. Take that 6. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. You add it and you subtract it. Group these first three terms. X squared minus 6x plus 9. This minus 9 multiplies with the number outside. Minus 9 times 4 minus 36 plus 31. This factors to x minus 3 squared. Minus 36 plus 31 is minus 5. Let's look at another example. Again, I'm going to focus on just my x terms. So the first thing I'm going to do is factor out this coefficient. So I've got negative 0.3 brackets. When I divide that by negative 0.3, I will get x squared. That's the idea. The idea is to wind up with x squared by itself. Alright, negative 2.4 divided by negative 0.3 is going to give us positive 8x plus 7.3. So what did I do? I factored out the negative 0.3. To get this term, all you have to do is take that and divide it by that. And that's my expression so far. Alright. I've got negative 0.3 brackets x squared plus 8x plus minus. So I've got to add and subtract some number inside this brackets. And the question is, what is that number that gets added and subtracted? So you take this 8 and you do 1 over 2 times 8. That's going to give you 4. Then you take 4 and you square that. That's going to give you 16. So 16 gets added and subtracted. By adding and subtracting it, the result is like adding 0. So we're not really changing that, we're just changing the way it looks. You want to keep these three terms inside the brackets. So negative 0.3 x squared plus 8x plus 16. I'm going to take this negative 16 and multiply it by that negative 0.3. Negative times negative, positive. 0.3 times 16, 4.8. And I have the 7.3. This is going to give us negative 0.3 brackets x plus that first number squared. 4.8 plus 7.3, 12.1. And that tells us that we've got a parabola opening down because my a is negative. The equation for my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 4. Pay attention to how that sign changes only for the axis of symmetry. My vertex is negative 4, 12.1. And because I'm opening down, I have a max. And that max value is 12.1. Just make a note of that. This is my vertex. It's also a maximum point. The maximum value is 12.1. I want to go over those steps again. What I did was I focused on my x squared and x terms. I divided out a negative 0.3. So negative 0.3 times x squared will give me that. Negative 0.3 times 8x will give me that. Next I'm going to take this 8x. Half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So inside this bracket I'm going to add and subtract 16. I've grouped these first three. X squared plus 8x plus 16. Negative 16 multiplied by negative 0.3 will give me positive 4.8. Now bring the 7.3 down. This factors as a perfect square, x plus, and that first number, 4.8 plus 7.3, 12.1. The money question is something like this. It's just a variation on theme. Basically, you just don't have a c value. But we're going to rearrange it. Minus 3x squared plus 5x. If you feel uncomfortable, keep in mind that that's the same thing as plus 0. Alright, we're going to do what we did in the other situations. We're going to factor out the negative 3. So that's going to give us negative 3 brackets x squared. Now, positive divided by negative, 5 divided by 3, x. So how do I get this? 5 over 3? 5 over 3. And, if you're still carrying over that 0, so, what's the number that gets added and subtracted inside that bracket? So we've got x squared minus 5 over 3x. Something gets added, something gets subtracted. Now, How do we figure out what that number is? Well, we're going to do exactly what we did before. 1 over 2 times this middle number, 5 over 3. And that gives us 5 over 6. I then take 5 over 6 and square it, which gives me 25 over 36. So I'm going to add 25 over 36. I'm going to subtract 25 over 36. So again, I took that number 5 over 3, I multiplied it by 1 over 2. That's the same thing as taking a half of it. 1 times 5, 2 times 3, that's 5 over 6. I take 5 over 6 and I square it. 5 times 5, 25. 6 times 6, 36. Inside my bracket, I'm going to add 25 over 36 and I'm going to subtract 25 over 36. Now, as normal, I'm going to group these three. So I've got minus 3 x squared minus 5 over 3x plus 25 over 36. Close brackets. Outside, I've got minus times minus, which gives me plus. 3 times 25 is 75 over 36. Don't have to worry about the 0 anymore because I've got a number there. Now, remember that 25 over 36 that we added? We used that, so now we've got this one, and that's going to come in handy here because this becomes negative 3x minus 5 over 6 squared plus. Now, we've got 75, we've got 36, and we don't want to leave it like that because we can actually reduce it. So 3 divides into this 12 times, 3 divides into that 25 times. Nothing else divides into that. That's 5 times 5, and there's no factors of 12 that are 5. So that's 25 over 12. Negative 3, so I've got a parabola that's opening down. The equation of my axis of symmetry is x equals 5 over 6. My vertex is 5 over 6, 25 over 12. And because I'm opening down, I have a max of 25 over 12. So what were those steps again? I factored out, first I had to make sure I rearranged it so that it was x squared x and a number. I factored out the negative 3. Negative 3 times x squared will give me that. Negative times negative positive. 3 times 5 over 3 will give me 5x. I then take my 5 over 3 and I multiply it by a half to get 5 over 6. I square 5 over 6 to get 25 over 36, which gets added and subtracted inside the brackets. I'm going to group the first 3 and leave them inside the brackets. Negative 3 times negative 25 over 36 gives me positive 75 over 36. This factors out to x minus 5 over 6, square root of that, plus 25 over 12. My a value is negative, so I'm opening down. Equation of the axis of symmetry is x equals 5 over 6. My vertex is 5 over 6, 25 over 12, and 25 over 12 is my max.